Hello viewer, welcome back again to this channel and particularly to this video tutorial series on Fortinet Firewall. This is the part 1 of this video tutorial series, and in this part as well as in our upcoming parts we will be first setting the context of each video by defining the proper topic to be covered or defining the steps to be followed in a very specific and sequential manner. One more thing, you just require basic networking knowledge in order to join this tutorial series. I will start considering you as a beginner, and by the end of this video tutorial series you will be having advanced level of knowledge on Fortinet Firewall, both in terms of operations as well as security aspect of firewalls. So without any further delay, let's start with the topic or steps to be followed in this part. So first we will be covering the Fortinet Firewall introduction, then we'll cover the port details of firewall, then we'll cover the getting started of the firewalls, then we'll directly jump to the lab where we'll start the introduction, and I'll quickly take you through the menus and functions available in a Fortinet Firewall. So let's begin with the step 1, that is the introduction. So as you know from internet or from somewhere, because you already have some basic knowledge on networking, that firewall, what firewall can do, what firewall is being used for. So just in one line, firewall is a protection device between internal and external world. So specific to this Fortinet Firewall and the model which we will be using in this journey is an application-centric, scalable and SD-WAN feature enabled firewall, and this is basically being used in enterprise branch offices or in a mid-size business environment. And this firewall is having features to protect against cyber threat. It has SD-WAN feature which you can configure in a very simple and affordable and easy deployment solution. So considering the deployment part, it can be deployed in two different business case scenario. One is here, you can see one is like it can be deployed as a next generation firewall, and another is can be deployed as a SD-WAN solution firewall. So when we talk about next generation environment, basically you can put it in the edge of your internal network and you can connect all the internet links to that, so that the internal user can access the internet through a secure path, or you can say through this firewall. When you consider the SD-WAN solution, that is basically you will again put it in the edge of your network, but it will create a secure path to the branch offices or to the main headquarters available through internet or through available MPLS link. So using the internet link and MPLS link, it will create a SD-WAN path which can be used connecting different multiple sites. Now talking about the capacity, this firewall has 2.5 Gbps of throughput. If you use the IPS, it is having 350 Mbps of throughput. The next generation firewall feature can be used with 220 Mbps of throughput. Threat protection is having 160 Mbps, and the interfaces available here, as you can see in the pictures, are RJ45 interfaces. So talking about the interface, next rush through the next the device type, what are the port available, what are the feature available. So the front face, you can see the front face is covering most of the LEDs and the back side is covering the port. So the section 1 of the front face is basically the LEDs which shows the device status, alarm, high availability status, system status, like that. The second section is covering the interface LED status, where if one interface is connected or getting disconnected, then according the LED will glow. The third is the USB port, which can be used for importing, exporting log, which can be used for importing the iOS, all the firmware, like this. And the back side of this firewall is having the port showing in the picture is being used for the power input. The next is for console, which you can use while configuring the device through console port. The other two ports are being used for the ISP when we have an internet service provider link that can be used in the 1.1 and 1.2 port. The next 5 port are being used for the LAN. There we can connect our internal devices, but in further videos, in the next videos, I will show you how we can configure a LAN port as a 1 or 1 port as a LAN, because this port can be assigned different role based on the port type configuration and based on the different mapping. Next part is how you can configure a device or how to start configuring the device. So whenever you procure a Fortinet firewall, the square section which you can see is basically the part where you can see the information available regarding getting started with the firewall. Like, it will give you details how to configure the firewall manually. Basically it will show a URL. Like here you can see the default URL of any Fortinet firewall is 192.168.1.1 with a username admin and password as blank. So whenever you procure any firewall, you just need to connect it. So where you have to connect, you have to connect out of the available 1 to 5 port, because these are the LAN ports. So you just need to connect your laptop or desktop to any one between 1 to 5 port. In my case, I have connected it to port number 5. So it will get DHCP address in your computer, and you can easily browse this 192.168.1.99 IP in your available web browser to access that device with a credential of username as admin and password as blank. So let's quickly jump to the lab, and where we will directly access that firewall, and we will get to know what are the menus available and what are the features or what are the menu being used for. So let's jump to the lab. Yes, so I have connected my firewall port number 5 with my desktop. Let's check what is the IP address of my system by opening the CMD and typing IPCONFIG. Yes, I can see my computer IP is 192.168.1.110 and the gateway IP is 192.168.1.99, which was there in the sticker like the default IP of the firewall. Just to check detail, again I will put ipconfig space /all. So here you can see my IP is being generated from a DHCP server, and the DHCP server IP is also 192.168.1.1, which is same as the gateway IP and which is again same as the default IP of firewall. So from this information we came to a conclusion that the firewall is having a IP of 192.168.1.99. Again, it is having a DHCP server through which I am getting my IP of 192.168.1.110. So let's copy this IP and open the web browser so that we can check it. Yes, let's open the IP address in the web browser. Yeah, it is showing some connection is not private. Proceed on securely. Yes, it is asking me for username password. As for the documentation, there should be no password with username as admin only. Let's click OK. Yes, it is asking me to change the password. Current password is blank. New password, let's set it as admin for the moment. Click on OK. So my password has accepted because there was no error found. So just let's try the new password, which is admin login. Yes, I can see my username password is being accepted. Now it is asking me to set a host name, because host name is important while defining any devices. We can track the devices. So let's begin it. Let's set the host name. Firewall, last is the count, which is 1 in case, so 001. Let's click on OK. As soon as you will log in, you will see a screen which is nothing but the status screen. Here you can see status of different parameter. You can add, remove the parameter, you can resize the parameter. Like in this case, if you want to resize it, I will just click resize. I'll set it to 3. It will cover the full screen. So there are basically 4 slices available. You can use it accordingly. If you want to delete, you just click and remove. Again, if you want to add any wizard there, you just can go there and click on the setting button. And you can add that thing. So as I told you, I will take you through all the menu button and what are the feature. I will just describe you. Will not go to detail of any feature because for that I will be covering in the next step. So this is considering you as a beginner. I will just take you through the complete menu bar. So here you can see the status bar. If you will tick on star, it will be set as favorite, and you can access it directly from the favorite menu and navigate easily. So currently I will remove that. The next tab are like top LAN utilization, security component, system view. We'll be dealing with all these menus in our future videos. Next one is security fabric. Security fabric in Fortinet itself come with a different appliance, but for this appliance, if you will say it will give you some physical topology diagram, logical topology diagram, few automation component. Again, what are the automation available, that we'll cover in further videos. Few settings are there, like you can select your analyzer. Analyzer is basically the device which will collect your Fortinet firewall log. You can enable cloud logging, you can enable central management, and all these things. Connector again are the connector which we create to integrate this device with some external devices like single sign-on, LDAP setting, all these things. I will be covering this in further videos. FortiView is the view page where you can see which are the source being active in this firewall, which are the destination where your source are trying to communicate, what type of application they are using, what are the websites they are searching, what type of policy being used, which policy you have defined, and all session will give you the full detail of current running behavior of devices. Network is a critical tab. Here you can check the type of interfaces you are having and the mapping of interfaces. Like in this case, you can see a port LAN 1 to LAN 5 belonging to a LAN virtual interface, and it is having a dedicated management IP, and these are the administrative type access which are enabled in this port. And currently there is one IP being live, so this is my IP in this case. There are one port and one port are available, but both are in down state now. DNS is there. Currently you can see FortiGate DNS is configured, but you can specify your own DNS, you can specify your own domain name. Packet capture tab is being used by the administrator, and you can say whenever you log any ticket for any issue in Fortinet and there is detailed packet level analysis required, then this feature is being used by the support team to collect data, and based on the received data they analyze it through WordSearch kind of tool and able to provide you resolution on your issues. SD-WAN, there are 3 tabs for SD-WAN. SD-WAN again I told you can be used for clubbing different ILL. It can be internet lease line, it can be clubbed between internet lease line and MPLS link to provide multiple path to your branch offices. So we'll be covering this in detail. These rules can be defined based on the interfaces. You can monitor your SD-WAN links through different kind of parameter, like packet loss you can monitor, latency, jitter you can configure. You can define a destination through which you can monitor all these features. Static route you can use whenever you know the destination and you know there is a single path available to reach that destination, then you can define static route. FortiExtender is a separate topic, we'll cover it in further videos. System, again system is basically the administrator. Currently it is admin. You can create your own administrator. Before creating any administrator, if you want to give a customized profile to it, you can configure that in administrative profile. Like you can configure a completely read-only user, you can configure read-write user, you can configure a user without any access. Firmware tab will give you the current firmware version. If you have a internet connectivity connected to this device, you can upgrade directly your firmware from this tab. Setting tab, you can set that NTP server. If you are having anything, you can customize your ports, you can create a password policy, you can like enable the email services from your high availability being used when you have two similar kind of devices. You want to configure both as a active mode or active passive mode in order to create a high availability, so that one device if goes down, then other device will act to provide you service availability 24/7. SNMP, again, SNMP can be used, and SNMP feature is available in this Fortinet firewall. If you have SNMP server, you can configure these details based on the server type, like version 1, version 2 or version 3, and you can export your SNMP data to that destination. Replacement messaging we used, where you can customize your default messages, like for login page, for login field, there are default messages which will be shown, so you can configure that. You can remove that Fortinet logo with your company logo, you can remove the Fortinet message with your company message or your policy message. Everything can be customized in through this tab. FortiGuard will show you what type of licenses you are having, when it is going to expire, what is the current version being updated. In my case it is showing expired, however we are going to renew it before we go to the next video, so that you will be having a full featured experience instead of some limited experience in the further videos. Feature visibility part is you can configure, like in my case we are not going to use the Wi-Fi controller, so I can disable it, but in the same case I am going to use the advanced routing feature, so I can enable it. So here you can see in the network tab there is only static route available, so once I will enable advanced routing and click on apply, you can see there are multiple options got enabled, like policy route, RIP, OSPA, BGP. So accordingly you can define which are the feature you want to use, you can enable that, and which are the feature you don't want to use, can disable that. Like in our case, switch controller and Wi-Fi controller we are not going to use, so I can disable that. Next is the policy object. Here you can define policy for communication between interfaces, between zone, between source and destination. And in order to configure policy, there are some other things which you require, like a source IP address, destination IP address, that you can define here in the address tab. If you want to give a particular service access like HTTP, HTTPS or SSH, that you can define here. You can schedule your policy, you can create a scheduler here, like for a particular hour if you want to give access, a particular day you want to access, give you access, then you can define that. Virtual IPs and IP pool you can use for security purpose, like if you don't want to expose your internal IP to any outside, then you can create virtual IPs for that, which will act as a create a masking for your internal IP and act as a secure IP for the external user to access. IP pool you can use whenever you are using any internet link and your ISP has provided you multiple IP and you want to use all these IP for internet access at the same time, then you can use this IP pool feature. Protocol options, as I told you, we can define protocol port mapping, like for HTTP it is standard is 80, but you can specify your port or you can specify any there. Traffic shapers, these three policy can be used whenever you have a bandwidth of suppose 10 Mbps, but you want some particular VIP user to have 5 Mbps dedicated, and rest of the all other user you want to give maximum of 5 Mbps or maximum of 2 Mbps, then you can define that kind of policy based on your requirement by using all these three rules: traffic support policy, and traffic shaping profile. Security profiles are critical whenever you are defining any policy from a source to a destination. Then you have to enable all these security profile based on the requirements, so that the access which you are allowing should be a secure access. Like suppose it is related to some file transfer, then you should enable antivirus. If it is related to some web browsing, then you should enable web filtering and DNS filtering. If it is related to some application, then you can enable application controller accordingly. We'll be covering all these options in our further videos. Next is the VPN. Whenever you have a firewall connected and you have some internal application being used by internal user and you have a direct internet link, in that case you can configure different type of VPN like IPsec VPN and SSL VPN, using which your user available in internet can access the internal app. Next is the user device. Again, when I told you the user available in internet, how they will access, VPN is obviously one media they have to access, but again using the VPN they require some identification like the X user or Y user, so that you can define here. You can create users with username, password. You can define what type of user they will be, whether they will be local user, whether they will be remote user. Again, for defining remote user, you have to configure the remote server, like in this case LDAP and radius server. You can club multiple user in a user group. You can select guest management. You can check your device inventory. You can check the authentication setting you want to enable. If you have 40 tokens that you can use. 40 tokens is basically being used for as a multi-factor authentication feature. Whenever you have a ID, you have a password, and you want to enable a second level of authentication to that, then you can use 40 authentication. Post giving username, password, there will be a OTP kind of thing which will be generated, and once the OTP will be validated, then will be given access to connect to log into this device or to log into VPN, like that. Next tab is the log and report tab. Here basically you will see the different type of log available in the devices, as well as you can set the log type. You can forward that log to any syslog server by defining the IP addresses here. You can forward the traffic to cloud by logging into FortiGate cloud and activating your account. You can customize what kind of log you want to send, whether it is all type of log, whether it is any customized log, all these things. You can set the weightage of threat type, like in this case you can see if it is an informational message, then the threat is set as off, but you can set it to medium or high or critical if you want to, but as per my recommendation these settings are as per standard, so it is recommended not to touch these things. Again, if you have an email server available, you can enable this and configure your email server. You can configure the kind of messages you want through email. Whenever the situation will arise, whenever any intrusion is detected, you want to send you want to get notified through email, then you can enable this. You have to set the right from address and to address in order to get these emails. The last one is the monitor part, where you will see that what are the routes being defined in your devices, what are the DHCP devices. Currently there is only single device, which is my computer entry, so I can do multiple things with device remotely, like if I'll right click here, I can revoke the lease. As soon as I will revoke the lease, my device will get disconnected from this network. I can create a reservation so that any time my device will be connected to this firewall, it will always be having this IP. My IP will never get changed. I can create a firewall address rule so that my device will be registered with this MAC address in this firewall. Again, SD-WAN, if I have configured SD-WAN, I can monitor this. I can monitor the quota. I can monitor the VPN users available. I can monitor the users available. If I have quarantined any user based on the unusual behavior or unusual traffic alert received, I can monitor that also. If I have configured 40 client software in any computer and I want to monitor that, then I can monitor that also. So these are the basic menu, and I have taken you through each and every menu details. However, the use cases and the utilization and configuration part will be covering in the further videos. There is another few tab available in the right hand side, like you can see the CLI console is available here, which can be used to configure any parameter through command line interface. You can record that command line interface, clear the screen, you can download, you can copy, and you can maximize the screen to have some better large visibility. The next tab is full screen mode. If you want to set it in a full screen mode, you can just click on that. It will be giving you a larger view, and in order to restore to the previous view, you can just click on the left side and exit full screen mode. Next is the video tab. If you click on here, you will be redirected to the video tutorial tab. However, you can access this directly through the URL also, but in our case it doesn't require this tab at all, because I am going to give you video tutorial of everything. We'll be covering each and every aspect of this firewall, so you will never require this thing. Next part is the notification tab. If you have any notification in your firewall, then it will here the message will pop up like 1 2 3 4 5. Last one is the ID through which you have login. So here you can check the firewall name, you can check the firewall version, you can reboot or shut down your device, you can back up your configuration or restore the configuration, you can change your password or directly log out. Thank you all for watching this video. Do like and subscribe this channel to get update on upcoming videos, and if you have any feedback or query, that you can write it in the comment section. It will help us improve our further video. Also it will give us some input to help you more on your requirement. Thank you.